All right, looks like we're getting folks on. I am excited to be here, and I'm just seeing folks are continuing to join, but let's just go ahead and get started because we've got a lot of really good material we want to cover today. It's great to be here with everybody, and we've got a really great group of people who are going to talk shop about the current state of affairs. We are here, of course, today because the statewide eviction moratorium that's been in place since the start of the pandemic expired yesterday. So I'm State Senator Ben Allen. I represent the West Side, Hollywood, coastal South Bay communities of Los Angeles County. And I've been serving in the Senate for a couple terms now. And of course, this has been one of the most difficult times of my time in public service, as we've been working really hard to assist people who've been incredibly impacted by this terrible pandemic and all of the repercussions. And one of the areas where people have been most hit has been in the area of housing. And of course, it's one of the reasons why we wanted to come together as a legislature, as a government, in conjunction with our partners at the both federal and state levels to create a system to make sure that we could keep people in their homes. But now, of course, for better or for worse, this moratorium is coming to an end, but there are some very serious protections that are in place, and there's a lot of funding in place as well to help people. And so one of the reasons why we wanted to create this forum today was to just make sure that everybody knew what opportunities are out there to keep people in their homes, while at the same time, there's a program in place to make sure that landlords are compensated. So, I know many of us are wondering what steps we should consider going forward. And we've got this panel here today that's going to help us think through these issues and make sure that folks know what tools are available to them. So it's been a frustrating and difficult couple of years. We're now dealing with the impact of the Delta variant, though I will say that things have been getting considerably better. We here in California, at least, there was a great piece in the LA Times just yesterday about how our rates have been so much lower than in Florida, Texas, and other states. But we came together in June to pass AB 832, and this is kind of going to be at the core of our panel discussion today. This is a bill that extended needed protections for tenants while also establishing a process for landlords to recover from any financial losses that were incurred during the pandemic. And so first and foremost, the bill, as I said, it initially extended the statewide eviction moratorium through September 30th, which of course expired yesterday, but there are protections in place. So we're going to be talking about those protections. We're going to be talking about the money. We want to make sure that our constituents are accessing this money. So let's start with Lori Blevins, who's with the California Department of Housing and Community Development, who's going to present. She'll be providing us with an overview about the resources and protections that come from AB 832 and the California Emergency Rental Assistance Program. And then we'll be hearing from some excellent panelists, Nithya Raman from the LA City Council, Jennifer Kennedy, coordinator at Santa Monicans for Renters' Rights, and then Jonathan Holub, who's the Rent Stabilization and Housing Division Manager at the City of West Hollywood. But let's start with you, Lori. We know you have a great presentation for us this morning.
Thank you, Senator, and thank you everybody for being here. I really do appreciate the opportunity to talk about our program. So I'm going to pull up the presentation, and then I am going to try to share my screen. Over here. If this works. Can you guys see that?
I can't see it.
Okay, hold on. Oh, I always forget to hit share on Zoom.
That's important.
In Teams, you don't do that. You just share. Okay, how about that?
There you go. It's there. Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you, Lori.
Thank you. So good morning, everybody. Again, my name is Lori Blevins, and I'm the section chief for the ERAP program at the California Department of Housing and Community Development. And I'm going to talk a little bit about our program and then a little bit about the AB 832 and what that means as of today. So I'm going to try to go quick because I think I have like 15 minutes and there's a lot of information to cover. So firstly, just a real quick overview. Our program was just launched in March of 15th of 2021. So we put this program together really quickly. We focus on stabilizing low-income households through the payment of rent arrears to landlords and to tenants. We also have 140 organizations in our local network our local partner network with boots on the ground to assist people in their communities. They can assist them by helping them take applications. They go door to door. They help us get the word out on what is available, how to apply, and what their rights are. As of September, into September, we had almost 650 million in rent and assistance paid to over 55,000 households. And I just want to say, just since the last 2 days, our call volume has doubled. We're getting 54,000 calls a day. So please be patient. Program overview. We're here to provide financial assistance to landlords and income eligible renters impacted by COVID-19 for unpaid or future rents and unpaid utilities. Enables most impacted households to stay in their home, excuse me, and prevent eviction and make the landlords whole. Most landlords, both landlord and tenants, are encouraged to apply. Applicants can qualify regardless of immigration status, and we do not require any type of proof of citizenship. Excuse me. All application information is kept private, and the program is open until we have exhausted all of our funds. As you know, this is a limited funded program, I think. So tenants, the tenants' qualifications, that they have to be financially impacted by COVID. There is an income qualification limit at 80% of median income or below, and they must have unpaid rents or utilities or need help for future rents. So if they're current on their rents, but they just need help with future rents, they can still apply. They don't have to be delinquent on their rents. The landlord, on the other hand, has to have delinquent rents. And the renter, obviously, the renter's household income has to be at 80% or below. The payments must satisfy all of the rent arrears dating back to 4/1/20. We will pay rents dating back to that date. Renters must take steps to verify that they meet income eligibility requirements and sign an application. And that's a very important step in this process. Even though the landlord can apply by himself without the tenant needs to also submit an application, because we have to have the ability to verify that that tenant meets the income eligibility requirements. A tenant can apply without a landlord, but a landlord has to have a tenant. AB 832 modified SB 91 so that the rental assistance covers, sorry, it's too early in the morning, covers 100% of the unpaid rent, future rents, and delinquent utilities. And that's another important step, is that before we were only paying 80% of rents. Eligible renters whose landlords don't participate in the program can still receive 100% of the unpaid rent since accrued since April, and they must submit that rent to their landlord within 15 days. We authorize non-occupancy payments, which means that if the tenant has vacated the premises but still owes rental arrears, we can still make that landlord whole. Additional funding, this was what we call, sorry, my dogs, ERA 2 provided additional funding of 2.6 billion in excess of 5.2 billion for total rent relief. Extended eviction protections. The state eviction protections, as you know, ended yesterday. And the process is not gone, it's just modified. So beginning October 1st, a temporary court process will be in effect until March 31st of 2022. The process is intended to provide protections for tenants who are eligible for and in need of assistance, while providing the landlords with an opportunity to initiate the eviction process for non-payment of rents where the tenant is not eligible for assistance. AB 832 ends the following components: end of declaration forms, returns to a 3-day pay or quit notice for rents that go past due after October 1st, 2021. I saw a question in the chat about the 3-day pay or quit. It's for rents that are due after today. Requires the landlords to apply for rental assistance before proceeding with an unlawful detainer. Again, a very important process that takes effect today. The landlord has to apply for assistance with the program before they can proceed with an unlawful detainer. And they have to show that they have applied and that their tenant is not eligible or non-responsive. So real quick, I know these kinds of charts are very confusing, and especially when you're looking on a screen. But I just wanted to point out basically that we have an application portal for both the landlord and the household. So the landlord can apply separately, as I said, and then the tenant applies, and then we match up their applications once they come through the door. It's very helpful if the tenant has the landlord, or the landlord has the tenant information correctly, so that we can match them up right away. It does speed up the process. This particular process right here is one of the bottlenecks that we see, is that when landlord initiates an application, they do not provide us with tenant information. So it takes a while to match those two together. So very important, if the landlord is applying, please give us accurate tenant information. The paperwork that you will need to submit as a tenant, one of them is a 2020 tax return, 2020 W-2 or 1099 if you are unemployed, current pay stubs, proof of participation in any one of the California or state subsidy programs. Will provide the income limit information that we require. And if you are applying for utilities, we would like the most recent invoice of unpaid utilities, water, trash, internet as of April 1st, 2020. If your landlord is not participating in the program, or if you are not sure about your landlord's participation, a rent due statement or a copy of your lease and rental agreement showing your name, resident address, and the rent due. For the landlords, we require a copy of the lease reflecting the amount of rent due, the residence's address. We also would like a ledger for rent showing the unpaid rent from April 1st, 2020. And this ledger, the ledger doesn't have to be anything fancy. It just has to be something that shows what rent is due for what month. We generally will pay, if the landlord is participating, we will pay based on the landlord's rent ledger. And then we need a copy of a W-9 for tax purposes. Where to apply? Accessing the application. So we've designed a no wrong door system in our website, where there is an interactive map. And once you enter the property address, it will tell you where you need to apply. There is a state program, and then there's 20 some localities who are running their own program. So if the tenant is in an area where it's a local program, this map, interactive map, will push them to the program they need to apply to. The application is translated for accessibility. I think we have 7 languages on our website or in the application process. And if there is an application, or if there is a language that is not part of our application process, then you can go to one of those 140 local network partners we talked about, and they will provide the language that a tenant needs in order to complete the application, and they will help them complete the application. So the information that you put on this initial screen, it doesn't translate over to the application. The initial screen is what I call a triage screen. It basically just goes through the steps to see whether or not you're in the right program and whether or not you income qualify. Once you have gone through those steps, it will push you into the portal, where then you start completing the information needed and supplying the documentation that you need. This is a screenshot of the portal. We have a two-step registration for first-time users. You enter your email address and a password. If you don't have an email address, you can provide how you would like to be contacted, either through phone or basically through phone or text. Again, those are individuals that would be working with a nonprofit, one of our 140 nonprofits that we have working boots on the ground. We have tried to simplify our application. In fact, we're doing that almost daily, working on the application process to make it easier in the back end to match up tenants and landlords. Takes less time to complete, requires fewer documents to be uploaded, and offers helpful tips along the way. These are some of the updates that we have done. We now have a paper application now available on the website in multiple languages, so you can go to the website and print an application. We have simplified and streamlined the website, again, translated into 5 additional languages, 6 total, including English. Directs renters and landlords to the program that they may qualify based on where they live. You can make changes to your application, but once it's been assigned to a case manager, you will need to call the call center, reopen your account, and then you can make the changes that you desire. This will enable you to log in and modify your request, number of months, types of payments, and any documentation requirements that we've asked for. And once your application is in processing, however, you will need to coordinate with the case manager to make any additional changes. That means you have to call the case manager and they have to make the changes for you. AB 832 required application status checks. The state program has established a special process to assist landlords, tenants, and the courts and legal representatives to check the status of a landlord or tenant application. Call the call center helpline and follow the prompts on application status check. And then it will prompt you to either landlord, tenant, or courts. This will take you directly to a call center employee who will be able to provide you with immediate documentation of your status of the application. We are working on a self-service portal that will be made available on our homepage. Call center resources for general questions and information. Help to initiate the application via phone, request to reopen your account, application status checks are at this number, 833-430-2122. The appointment call center, 833-687-0967, to reserve an appointment with a local partner for in-person support. Case management support to work with landlords and tenants to complete the application, which once initiated. And applicants can add a designee to their account to establish a third party to help them complete the application. We have a public dashboard that's available on our website. I want to point out that this dashboard is dated July 14th, so the numbers are very stale, but you can go into our dashboard off of Housing is Key, and you can actually filter by county or city to see where applications have been funded, how many, AMI, age. You can break it down by the county and then by the city. This is only available if it is a state-run program. If a locality is running their own program, this will not include their data. There's some online reference checks you can look up. I can leave this up on the screen, or I can provide a copy of this presentation for anybody who wants it. We have a lot of resources on our webpage for tenants, landlords, and individuals who are looking for additional resource as needing someone to help them fill out their application. It'll take them and provide them a list of who in their area can help them with completing an application. So quick takeaways. Use the address lookup to find out where you can apply. Tenant participation is required. eligible for the program is around the tenant household. So that's very important for us to remember. The landlord unfortunately does need a tenant in order to get payment out of the program. If you have a non-cooperative tenant, try contacting a local partner, and they can help you reach out on your behalf to get the tenant in the door so that the landlord can get paid. Use your case reference numbers to go to the portal and check the status. This is something that is assigned when you apply, or call the call center and reopen your account if needed to modify your request, add months or other payments due. Landlord takeaway, modified court process. In order to evict a tenant for falling behind to pay rent that comes due between March 1st and March 31st, a landlord must provide rental assistance. Must provide proof that they have applied for a rental assistance unless the tenant started occupying or renting after today. Pay or quit notices requirements vary depending on the, I have my screen up here, hold on. The court, sorry. Landlords seeking to recover COVID-19 rental. Did I skip a slide? In order to evict a tenant for failing to pay rent that came due between March and March, the landlord must apply for rental assistance unless tenancy started after October 1st, 2021. A pay or quit notice requirements vary depending on when the unpaid rent became due. Landlords must give correct notice and comply with the deadline requirements, 3 days versus 15 days. And this is the part of the AB 832 that is very confusing to many, especially landlords in the courts, in that there are different notices that are required depending on when the tenant became delinquent. Beginning November 1st, the landlord must bring a lawful lawsuit for unpaid rent against a tenant, or may bring a lawsuit for unpaid rent from a tenant in the small claims court. So if they don't get paid, they can go to small claims court and get a judgment. Landlords seeking to recover the COVID-19 rental debt must provide documentation that they made a good faith effort to cooperate with the tenant in obtaining rental assistance. The court has authority to reduce the damages if it is determined that the landlord refused to obtain rental assistance from the state rental assistance program. The tenant was ineligible and funding was available. Courts may limit attorney fees in COVID-related rental debt cases. And that's the end of my presentation. Does anybody have any questions?
All right, Lori, you lots and lots of questions, and
Okay.
you can go on to the chat and
Oh wow, 59 questions.
right, and so take a look at them.
Are they all for me?
Most of them, yes. So what I'm going to do is give you the chance to review the questions while we hear from our other panelists, and then you can figure out how you best want to answer them. I'm going to also, there's some questions that were that were sent to us beforehand that we'll start out the conversation with as well. So anyhow, let's give you the chance to go over those chat questions. Lori, thank you for your presentation, and let's hear from our three panelists, and then we'll all have a broader discussion. So let's start with you, Councilmember Rauman. I was just with you yesterday in the Mid-City area. I'd love to hear whatever assistance you'd like to share with our attendees today.
Great. Thank you so much, Senator. What a pleasure to be here. And thank you all for Lori, for your great presentation. And I know there's going to be great information provided later in this call as well. I wanted to really just highlight the fact that the City of LA's eviction protections are very much still in place, and talk a little bit about how those protections may differ from what you have if you're not in the city and if you're in the county. So the City of LA's eviction moratorium is still in effect, and it offers critical protections for tenants in the wake of the state's eviction moratorium ending. The city had acted very quickly early on in the pandemic to enact strong residential eviction protections at the beginning of the pandemic. because, Los Angeles City is a very high cost city, but it also has a high concentration of the state's low income renters. And so the city has actually faced unprecedented demand for rental assistance. Los Angeles City is also a majority renter population. And so City of Los Angeles has consistently felt that it has been its responsibility to provide outreach, resources, and protections to prevent mass displacement caused by rent debt during a period when many people were unable to work. Beginning this week, the Los Angeles Housing Department, formerly called HCID, will begin doing outreach to renters and to landlords, making them aware of the city's eviction moratorium protections. So LAHD is going to be physically mailing and sending emails to landlords of the 8,200 rental units in the city of Los Angeles to remind them about the eviction protections continuing and to remind them that they should apply for rental assistance through the Housing is Key program in the state, through the state of California. Renters, we want to just make sure you understand your rights here. If you receive an eviction notice, please don't move out of your home without first seeking help to understand what your rights and options are. This is really, really important. You need to reach out to ask questions if you receive a notice of eviction. We have city staff, community partners, and legal service providers who are ready to help you. And I've watched this city for a long time. This is the most money that there ever has been in the history of Los Angeles to support tenants with legal assistance through an eviction process. This is really unprecedented, and you need to go to stayhousedla.org to learn more about those rights and to get connected to this legal assistance. The eviction protections, once again, I just want to be very clear, they're remaining in place in the city of Los Angeles. They don't expire today and have been upheld in the courts. I want to just clarify a little bit more about what that means. That means tenants that live in the city of Los Angeles cannot be evicted for non-payment of rent due to COVID-19, for any reasons due to no fault, based on the presence of things like unauthorized occupants or pets, or for nuisances related to COVID. Landlords are prohibited from attempting to evict a tenant if they know the tenant is protected, and that means locking someone out or serving an eviction notice. They're also not permitted to charge any interest or late fees. The city's ordinance also prohibits landlords during this period from removing units under the Ellis Act, and it prohibits rent increases for rent stabilized units until 12 months after the emergency period is over, and the emergency period is still ongoing right now. I want to talk a little bit more about what the city's protections mean. They are an affirmative defense to an eviction. That means that a tenant can defend against an eviction action by raising the city's protections in court. And so that means that if you get a notice of eviction, it may be in violation of the ordinance. And so that means you have to seek legal support so that you can raise this defense and stay in your home. So that's why it's incredibly important for you to go on to Stay Housed LA, to make sure you reach out to a legal partner and to ensure that you have the resources to be able to talk to your landlord and see what you can do to stay in your home. Tenants have 12 months following the end of the emergency declaration here in Los Angeles related to COVID to pay back unpaid rent. And the emergency declaration is very much in place right now in the city of LA. Okay, so let me see what else I need to share with you. I also just wanted to share with you a little bit more about the anti-harassment protections that exist in the city of Los Angeles. In addition to eviction protections, the city also adopted a tenant anti-harassment ordinance that bars landlords from harassing tenants, for example, by reducing services, refusing to make repairs, serving baseless notices, and making threats like disclosing your immigration status or threatening to call the cops. Tenants can bring an action against a landlord to enforce these protections. Again, this is something where you have to reach out to legal assistance to make sure that you have these protections in place. These are rights that require you to reach out to a lawyer in order to get help to stay in your home. And so stayhousedla.org is an incredibly important resource for all tenants in the city of Los Angeles. So finally, our basic message to tenants in the city of Los Angeles is you have rights and protections that continue even after today, October 1st. Don't self-evict without seeking out more knowledge about what those rights are and what you can do to enforce those rights. Apply for rental assistance. Connect with tenant organizations. A couple include ACE, ACCE, or SAGE, SAJE, or you can look up a chapter of a local tenant union. They all have been provided the support through the city to actually share information with you and to make sure that you understand your rights. And you can seek out information and legal help from stayhousedla.org. You can learn about protections available to you also on the city attorney's site, on the LA City Attorney site, which is lacityattorney.org/tenant-protections. So yeah, someone said, repeat those outside websites. It's, if you go to stayhousedla.org, and I can put that in the chat for you, that will really, that's going to be your comprehensive place to understand all of your rights related to being a tenant in the city of Los Angeles, and landlords, if you have questions about what you're able to do, or you know, how you must be acting in this particular moment, that also will be able to be answered through this website. So this is just for the city, not for all of LA County. This is just for the city, stayhousedla.org. Okay, I think that should be it. And finally, if you'd like to go in person, a lot of people want to go in person to make sure that they're seeking out the help that they need. I just want to point out one more resource for you, which is the Family Source Centers. So if you look up City of Los Angeles Family Source Centers, you'll find a map of these Family Source Centers, and you'll be able to walk into a building and they can connect you to all of these resources immediately. They have people who speak multiple languages. So whatever place you'd like to get that support, it's available to you in these Family Source Centers or through Stay Housed LA. So I think I've said what I need to say about City of LA's rights and resources available to both tenants and landlords at this time. And we will be able to answer questions in the chat that come up that relate to the City of Los Angeles. And it will be Deepika Sharma, who works in my office, who will be able to answer the questions in the chat for you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. And Deepika, you can post it to, as long as you do to everyone, it'll go out to the chat for everyone to see so we can get the questions answered. Thank you. Thank you so much, Nithya. Appreciate that great overview and appreciate all your work as well.
Thank you.
Let's go to Jennifer Kennedy. And by the way, you know, there's a lot of cities in my district, and different cities have different approaches. We're getting some different perspectives. If there are people who are from different cities, I know folks from the South Bay have some questions about the rules down there. We can get those questions answered for you as well. Just make sure that you're in touch with us. We'll post an email address as well so that you can do some follow-up with us. But let's now go to Jennifer Kennedy, who's a coordinator with SMER, and she can give us some information on the Santa Monica perspective and some broader perspectives as well.
Thanks, Ben. I am the coordinator for Santa Monicans for Renters' Rights, known as SMER. Our organization has been around for over 4 decades. We communicate with Santa Monica renters to help them understand their rights, and we advocate for laws that protect renters. Santa Monica's eviction moratorium expired at the end of June. However, at that time, Santa Monica began deferring to the county's moratorium, which just got extended to January 31st, 2022, but does not apply to evictions for non-payment of rent. So for Santa Monica renters, this means that there are certain other types of evictions that are prohibited up until January 31st, 2022. No fault termination of a tenancy or occupancy. So examples of evictions where the tenant is not at fault include the Ellis Act, where the owner goes out of the rental business, or owner occupancy or demolition. Another is nuisance. Also having unauthorized occupants, such as guests or pets, if their presence is related to the COVID-19 emergency. And denial of entry. So if a landlord or management wishes to enter your unit to fix a broken tile or paint, for example, a tenant can deny the landlord entry for COVID health reasons and not be evicted, but a tenant cannot deny entry when the maintenance or repair is an emergency. In addition, Santa Monica tenants have eviction protections because they are in our city charter. Now, back to eviction for not paying rent. If Santa Monica tenants have not been paying full rent, rent in full, or they think they may not be able to pay future rent, they may still be protected from eviction if they apply for the state rental assistance and can show that they have applied. It's important for renters to know that they can still apply for rental assistance and utility payment assistance after yesterday, September 30th, 2021. So SMER has teamed up with the City of Santa Monica to provide volunteers to help renters fill out applications for rental assistance. We'll be at City Hall with city staff in person on Wednesdays from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. throughout October. Santa Monica residents can call 311 or email 311@santamonica.gov. Again, you can call 311 or email 311@santamonica.gov to apply for rental assistance or schedule an appointment to meet with city staff or volunteers to fill out the application. Walk-ins will be an option. We'll answer questions about the application process, get applicants to the Housing is Key website, housing.ca.gov or housingiskey.com, provide assistance with documents needed, help scan or copy documents, and make referrals as appropriate. Remember, if you get an eviction notice, you have 15 days to start applying for rental assistance. A landlord who serves a tenant with an eviction notice has to apply for rental assistance too, and if they don't, they can't win an eviction case for non-payment of rent. Lastly, SMER operates a volunteer tenant hotline. The number is 310-394-0848. Again, our volunteer tenant hotline, you can call any time of day or night, is 310-394-0848. It is for Santa Monica tenants only. Our trained volunteers listen to tenants, help them understand their rights, and let them know what their next steps should be to protect their tenancy. If tenants want to fill out an application for state rental assistance on their own, they can contact the state rental assistance program directly, again, at the website housing.ca.gov or housingiskey.com, or by calling 833-430-2122. And for Santa Monica tenants who think they need legal help, they can contact the Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles at their Santa Monica office by calling 310-899-6200 or 800-399-4529 if you're in LA County, and LA residents can also contact stayhousedla.org, as we already heard, for legal help. I know a lot of this is confusing, and so we really encourage people to stay in their units and get legal help and contact us if they have questions, and we can help get them to the right place. Again, Santa Monicans for Renters' Rights tenant hotline number is 310-394-0848. Thank
All
you,
right.
Senator Allen, for having me on.
Thank you, Jennifer. Yeah, appreciate it. Appreciate it. All right, so let's go to Jonathan who's the Rent Stabilization Housing Division Manager at the City of West Hollywood. And of course, we're just getting different perspectives from different cities. But Jonathan works for the city and has some comments for us today.
Thank you so much, Senator, and thank you to you and your staff for allowing me to be here this morning. Again, my name is Jonathan Holub. I'm the Rent Stabilization and Housing Manager at the City of West Hollywood. So I'll just be talking primarily about the City of West Hollywood. The city also enacted an eviction moratorium at the outset of the COVID-19 emergency and has been working with its community partners to ensure that at-risk tenants can remain housed both during and after the pandemic. Currently, West Hollywood tenants are protected by the County of Los Angeles eviction moratorium, which, as Jennifer mentioned, is extended through January 31st, 2022. And she also mentioned the bases for which a tenant cannot be evicted during that period, and that is what applies in West Hollywood currently. So as I mentioned, the city is working with and funding community partners to assist renters in financial distress. If you are a West Hollywood resident or you know a West Hollywood resident who needs rental relief, please visit the city's website at weho.org, that's weho.org, and type in financial assistance in the search bar on the homepage. Again, that's financial assistance in the search bar on the homepage. I also want folks to know that if you are a city resident and you receive a 3-day notice, the city has engaged Betzetic Legal Services to provide free eviction defense to West Hollywood tenants. Again, if you are a West Hollywood resident or you know a West Hollywood resident who has any questions about our programs or the current eviction moratorium, visit weho.org. You can click on the coronavirus banner to access our renters resources page. You can contact the division directly by sending an email to rsh rsh@weho.org, and I can put that in the chat. Again, that's rsh@weho.org. Our phone number is 323-848-6450. If no one picks up, leave a message and a staff member will get back to you promptly. And again, thank you so much for allowing me to join you this morning.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I appreciate it. And we're going to send out, like, an in case you missed it, email to folks, because there's just so much information, and there's a lot of phone numbers and websites, and of course the slide presentation. I think everybody on both sides really just wants to get a better understanding of what's going on here. So we'll get that information out to folks, and then of course people can also call our office as well. Let me ask you, Lori, just quickly, what about on the commercial side? So we've been talking about residential. There's a lot of commercial landlords and tenants who are concerned. We did a webinar about this with the Santa Monica Chamber of Commerce on Wednesday, but can you just give us a very brief overview of the commercial side of considerations that people should be thinking about?
The COVID-19 state program does not cover, is not intended for commercial properties or commercial tenants. It's strictly residential.
Right. Okay. Well, okay. So what I will do is, for people who are interested, there was a whole presentation done by a law firm at the Santa Monica Chamber, and we can get, if people are specifically interested, we can get you that presentation. You can go into it. But there are some, it's true, the funding, the ERAP funding is obviously not available on the commercial side, but there are a set of rights and responsibilities that I think people need to be aware of if they have questions. And so we'll be in touch with our office. We can get you their PowerPoint presentation. There are several firms that are now offering to basically help to mediate landlord-tenant disputes on the commercial side as well. And that's a path that some of our chambers of commerce are helping to facilitate. So I just want to throw that out there, but you're absolutely right. The focus here is on the residential side. One of the questions that we got in advance from Katie from Torrance had to do with Section 8 housing voucher recipients. Can, presumably they can qualify for rental assistance, but can you talk to us a little bit about the unique challenges and the system that we have in place for them?
Certainly, yes. Obviously, we do cover, unpaid rent, even if they are covered with if they have a Section 8 voucher. But we will only pay the amount that is delinquent from the tenant. So we get the information from the landlord as to what is owed. So that would be the tenant's portion of the missed rent. So they still qualify. Absolutely, they still qualify.
Okay. And Jean from Hollywood had some just clarifying. She's just trying to clarify, in her head about exactly how the mechanism works. So the rental assistance payments, let's say everything goes great and you're approved, where does the money actually go at that point?
So there's different methods. First of all, if the landlord is participating, the money will go to the landlord. The landlord and the tenant both will tell us whether or not they want the money paid as an automatic deposit into their account, which then they have to provide us with their account information. If they want the money directly to them, a paper check is cut and mailed.
Okay.
So
okay.
Once the application is approved, the notice of approval goes out to the applicant and or landlord, and we request the information at that time. Once they provide most tenants will want the ACH. So once they provide us with the ACH information, they get a notification from bill.com, and the bill.com will provide the information or double check the information for their ACH, and then the money is transferred.
Okay.
If they do not respond to bill.com, then a paper check is cut, even if they asked for an ACH.
Okay. Let me ask. So Lori, you've had the chance now to review a number of the questions that were posted during your presentation. Do you want to take a stab at a number of them? I mean, I'm sure there's some burning ones that you want to get clarified. The questions keep coming to us. Unfortunately, there's just no way we're going to be able to answer every single one that's been posted on today's session, but we are going to work hard collectively to get all these questions answered. But why don't you start hitting some of the ones that you'd like to clarify?
I'd like to, well, I'm going to try to touch the ones that seem to be like, repetitive questions. So first of all, I see a lot of questions from from tenants who say that their application is stuck in pending landlord information. And I did mention in my presentation that this is the queue that I see, kind of the biggest bottleneck, if you will. And we're trying to get that. We have a special team working in that queue, trying to get it cleared up. But there is a backlog, but we've made tremendous progress in getting that queue cleared up, and we've changed our policy a bit. Instead of having, well, the law changed also so that we didn't have to wait, I believe it was 10 days or 15 days to get the contact with the landlord. That period has been shortened. So we're trying to get that queue cleaned out so that we can move you into QC and then paid. So I feel your pain. If you can't get a hold of your your case manager, I'm going to post the email addresses in the chat so that you can email the processing center. And that mailbox is monitored and responded to as fast as we can. The other question I saw, it seems to be a concern, is people are concerned that we're going to run out of money. They've applied and they're not getting any information, and they're afraid that we'll run out of money before their application is approved. Once you apply and once you have gotten into a case management, the money is reserved for you. So that's already taken into consideration when we say this money has been committed, applications reserved, or applications obligated. So if you're in the system, the money is already obligated to your account. Let's see. Oh, income qualifying. Actually, there was a couple of questions about not being able to hear me. So I apologize if I'm not coming across. I did change my mic, so hopefully everybody can hear me now. Can the panelists hear me okay? Okay. So income qualifying, if you don't file tax returns, that's fine. And if you don't qualify or don't take any of the benefits available to you, like CalFresh, I'm assuming maybe you are on Social Security, you can provide a copy of your Social Security award letter or bank statement showing your Social Security account deposited into your account, or you can do an attestation that you have no income. We will take an attestation of no income, and that is a proxy that we will use. So you can provide that information, and that's fine. Let's see. Does this apply for mom and pop businesses? Thank you for serving the city. I'm not sure if that was addressed to me or somebody else. But mom and pop landlords are a good part of our pipeline. So yes, if you're a mom and pop landlord, definitely apply. The other kind of thread that I see is that, and I can understand the frustration of the landlords, but the program is actually here to help you also. We're here to make you whole. So this isn't about, having somebody live in your property for free. This is about having assistance for you also, and at the same time preventing evictions in your project. So please don't think that this is a program to circumvent the landlords. It's a program to make the landlords whole as well as prevent evictions. Let's see. Again, I'm seeing a lot of frustration, not able to get a hold of their case manager. Please be patient. We have over 300,000 applicants in our pipeline. I know that doesn't help when we say I'm really busy, I can't get a hold of anybody. I'll post some email addresses in the chat. And hopefully I could even give you mine. And so we can make sure that if you're really concerned or you're really having issues, there's somebody here to answer your questions, because we really do try to make sure that everybody has their answers to whatever questions they have. The timing on the applications really depends on how complete the application is. our focus is to get a completed application out the door within 5 weeks, 4 to 5 weeks. Of course, there are applicants that actually do make that timeline. We are seeing that we are having applicants make that timeline, but a lot depends on how complete the application is, how responsive the tenant and or the landlord is to our request for additional information. I do hear a lot of instances where a tenant and or a landlord will say, well, they never got the email requesting additional information. But so if you think you're supposed to have information and you're not getting it, check your spam. We're seeing where a lot of the emails may go to your spam folder. So please check your spam or information if you think that you're not hearing from us.
Lori, let me, so this is helpful. This is helpful. I think you've gotten a number of these key questions clarified.
Okay.
I know there was a couple during Nithia's presentation that were brought up. I know Deepika's here. She's counsel for the council member, very deep into these legal weeds. Are there any things you want to specifically clarify that have come up in the discussion, Deepika?
Thank you, Senator Allen. I saw some chats that were specific to LA City, and I know there's some confusion. The mom and pop question that Lori addressed, the answer is yes, in terms of the LA City eviction moratorium on non-payment and no fault evictions related to COVID. I also saw a chat about that being hard if your tenants are creating a nuisance. And I want to clarify that what I think is important is the no fault evictions does not apply to non-COVID related reasons. So you can still, in the city of LA, evict a tenant for breaches and nuisance that are not COVID related. I also want to share that the city of LA is distributing business grants for small businesses, and there are landlords that qualify for this. And I'll put it in the chat after, but it's the EDD unit of the city. Also, I know, and Lori may have mentioned this before, that there are COVID roundtables that the county was holding for landlords and businesses. I saw a question about when the city eviction protections end. So one clarifying point is the way that the city operates is that it is voted by council on a month-to-month basis. So as of now, that's October 22nd. The protection itself then says when the moratorium expires in the city, it is then 12 months after that you have time to pay your rent yet. As of now, there is no end date. Under the state law, the moratorium has to end by May 2022. Having said that, council makes that determination month to month. LAHD will begin to, in the next coming days, post on their website each month and the date that the emergency exists. So it'll say October 22, October 20th, 2021. Then it'll say if council votes again in October, November, so that folks know month to month when it's going. After that, we'll have a primer on the protections that remain when the moratorium ends. And if folks have questions, I am reading the chat. I can answer any, but those are the ones I wanted to catch. Thank you all.
Thank you, Deepika. Appreciate you stepping in on that. Let me ask Jennifer or Jonathan, anything you want to additionally clarify given what's been coming up on the chat? I mean, as I say, there's been so many questions posted. We're going to have to end up, we're just all going to give out our contact information. We're going to do our best to follow up with people, but we're also going to encourage people to call in to our office and the offices of the various people who've been represented so that we can make sure we get these questions answered. We're also going to send out all the information that's been presented today. But Jonathan, let's start with you. Anything that's come up that you'd like to clarify?
Just with respect to the city of West Hollywood, I think there was a question about when the rents could be increased again, and there's currently a freeze on rent stabilized properties only, and that will go through to the end of the 60 days following the end of the local emergency ending. So if landlords have questions about that, again, they can contact the division. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Jennifer?
Yeah, I'll add a comment about that same topic, about when can landlords increase rents at, in Santa Monica, there was no moratorium on rent increases. And the landlord can raise rents if it's legal under your rental agreement. And in Santa Monica, tenants should contact the Rent Control Board office at 310-458-8751, because rent controlled properties, rent controlled units have a yearly general adjustment. And again, if it's non-rent controlled, it's whatever the lease says if you have a lease, and not more than 10% in a year for non-rent controlled tenants per state law.
Okay. Deepika, just an interesting question from Susan Clark. I think this is from a landlord. Tenant and I are in the system, but I think this is actually useful because it'll give people a sense of what's at play. Tenant and I are in the system, and I received back rent through September 30th. Tenants notified me they are unable to pay October rent. Can I serve, quit, or pay? Can the tenants get an extension for 3 months? Maybe Lori or maybe Deepika, could you possibly answer
Yeah,
Susan?
I actually answered it in the chat. If Susan, you're in the city of LA, the answer is no with a quit and pay, but I'm sure as Lori would have said, the good thing about the housing is key and the state funding is you can apply for future rent. And right now that's October, November, December, and utilities. So you can apply with the tenant again and get October, November, and December. And I think that's a great tool that the city has in its funding. But in the city of LA, no, you can't serve for non-payment if due to a COVID-related reason. If you were in the county or in the state, yes.
Okay, interesting. All right. A lot of jurisdictional overlap here. And yeah, that's I know that's one of the big challenges, right? Because we've got a statewide policy, but then different cities are doing their own thing. So people are going to have to inform themselves about the local rules. All right, so this has been very helpful for me. Not only have I learned a lot from the panelists, but I've also seen, I knew I've been getting, our office, of course, has been getting a lot of incoming questions from people on both sides and all the different communities that I represent, but to see it all in full bloom here on the chat has also been helpful. So there's a lot of, there's obviously a lot of confusion. I hope that we've been able to clarify some of the key issues at play. We're going to make sure that this information is pushed out to everybody. But for specific questions, our office remains available. We can put people in touch with resources. We're very closely in touch with tenants groups. We're also in touch with landlord groups, so we can get you in touch with your various associations and organizations so everyone can understand their rights, responsibilities under the rules. Our office number is 310-318-6994. You can also email us at senatorallen.senate.ca.gov. Our information was posted. I know that I know Jennifer and Jonathan and Deepika will post their contact information in the chat as well. Make sure to do it to everyone so everyone can see it. And you know, just to you know, get in touch with the person who asked again about commercial. We did talk a little bit about commercial. That was very well handled by a City of Santa Monica, a Chamber of Commerce session on Wednesday that will get out to people as well. There was a really good law firm presentation on the rights and responsibilities of commercial tenants and landlords that we'll make sure that people have access to as well. Anyway, I want to thank everyone for being a part of this. The key takeaway here is that there are tools at people's disposal. There's actually a great deal of funding out there for those that are eligible that should keep people in their homes and keep landlords whole. We know this is going to be a complicated couple of months. Ultimately, it's about people making sure that they reach out, they understand their rights, they understand their responsibilities under the law, both at the state level and at the city level. And this is ultimately all about keeping people housed and making sure at the same time that the landlords are properly compensated. And I know this is a challenging process. We ask people to be patient, but also to push. Because the bureaucracy has not been holding up particularly well at times. And it's our responsibility those of us on the elected official side and in government to make sure that the bureaucracy is being responsive to people. And that's been our role and responsibility over the past couple of months as we've been trying to help people navigate these difficult waters. So thank you to our wonderful panelists. Thank you to everyone who participated, all the questions that we got. Really do appreciate this, all this interest. We stand ready to be helpful to everyone as we try to keep people in their homes over the next couple of months. Thank you, everyone.